After water from my neighbor's pool flooded my basement, he laughed and said, "Gravity's not my fault." The insurance refused to help. He threw a party that weekend. I showed up with a drone, a level, and the city's head inspector. When they measured the grade and opened the permit records, this happened last summer, but I think about it all the time. I live in Springfield, Illinois, in a quiet little neighborhood where most people cut their lawns on Sunday and wave when they pass. My house is on the lower side of the block. Nothing fancy, just a basic two-story with a finished basement. I'd spent years turning that basement into something nice. Carpet, furniture, a TV room, even a little corner office. It was mine. Then my neighbors built a pool. They're the kind of people who don't talk to you unless they need something. Big parties, loud music, lawn guys over every other day. I remember the day the contractors started digging in their backyard. I leaned over the fence and asked about the project. They just said, "Putting in something fun," and walked off. No other details. I didn't push it. A few weeks later, I saw the pool. Big, above ground with decking around it, and these rock-looking features. It was built pretty close to the property line, maybe 6 or 7 feet from the fence. I thought it looked too close, but I didn't know the rules. I figured if they had permits, it must have been legal. Then it rained. One night in June, we had one of those Midwest thunderstorms. Constant lightning, heavy wind, water hammering the roof. Around 3 a.m., I heard the sump pump kick on. By 4 a.m., I heard it running nonstop. I got up, grabbed a flashlight, and went downstairs. I stepped into water. About an inch, maybe 2. It was spreading fast. I rushed to move stuff, unplugged the power strip, pulled up the corner rug, grabbed a plastic storage bin to scoop the water. But it just kept coming in. From the base of the far wall, right where their yard meets mine. By 5:30 a.m., I was panicking. I didn't know where the water was coming from, but it wasn't just rain. I opened the back door, stepped into my yard, and that's when I saw it. Their yard was soaked. Muddy water was running in sheets from their pool area over their patio, under the fence, and right into my foundation line. Their whole backyard was sloped straight into mine. The water had nowhere else to go. I knocked on their door at 6 o'clock in the morning. No answer. At 6:30, I tried again. This time the guy answered, barefoot, holding a mug of coffee, wearing some kind of robe like it was a beach resort. I told him what happened. I showed him video on my phone of my flooded basement. He looked at it, raised his eyebrows, and said, "Well, gravity's not my fault." Then he laughed, closed the door right in my face. That was the moment it changed for me. Not the flood, not the damage. It was the laugh. I called my insurance first. That was a mistake. When I reported the damage, they sent an adjuster out a couple days later. He walked around, took pictures, and then said the words I was dreading. "Looks like this was caused by water runoff from a neighboring property." Unfortunately, that's considered third-party negligence. We can't cover it. He gave me a brochure and left. Just like that, I was stuck. Cleanup cost me over $6,000. I had to replace the carpet, some drywall, the baseboards. I rented a dehumidifier the size of a vending machine. I tore up what I'd spent years building. Meanwhile, they threw a pool party that Saturday. Music, people laughing, kids screaming, someone singing karaoke. I watched from my living room window. I stood there in sweatpants, holding a wet shop towel, while they danced around a pool that destroyed half my house. That was the day I started planning. Step 1. Know the rules better than they do. I started by looking up my city's building codes. I found out that any permanent structure like a pool or deck has to follow setback laws, drainage rules, and permit requirements, especially if it's within 10 feet of a property line. Turns out, they never should have built it like that. I went down to the city building office. The clerk, nice older woman, let me see the public records for my block. Their permit was filed 6 months earlier. It covered the pool, the electrical work, and the fence. But there was no mention of grading or drainage. No engineering report.
No slope adjustment.
Nothing. I printed everything I could and made a copy. Then I rented a laser level from a tool supply place. Set it up in my backyard. Measured the slope from their yard to mine. 4%. Right into my foundation. The code allows a maximum of 2% slope away from other homes. They were double that. I took pictures of the level, screenshots of the numbers, video of the water path. Then I called the city inspector's office. The inspector's name was Rick. Mid-50s, polo shirt tucked into jeans, clipboard in hand, no nonsense in his tone. He called me on a Wednesday and said he could swing by on Friday morning. I took the day off work. I wasn't going to miss this. When he pulled up, I was already in the backyard with everything laid out. Photos, permit copies, laser level already set on the tripod. I had even trimmed the grass back so he could see the slope clearly.
He walked the property with me.
Quiet at first, just watching. I showed him where the water ran through after the rain. Pointed out the lowest spot near my foundation, then how the neighbor's pool patio was practically higher than my whole backyard. He crouched, looked at the fence line, and muttered, "That's definitely not right." I played him the drone footage I took a few days earlier. It was nothing fancy, just my kid's drone, but it showed the entire backyard layout from above. Pool, patio, fence, slope. All obvious. Rick pulled out a small digital level from his bag and took his own measurements. From the edge of their pool to the middle of my backyard, 4.3% grade. He didn't say much, just nodded. Then he asked if the neighbors were home. I didn't know. I said I could go knock. I walked to their front door, still trying to stay civil, and rang the bell. The wife answered this time. Sunglasses on, tank top, clearly annoyed. "Can I help you?" "There's a city inspector here," I said. "He'd like to speak with you about the pool drainage." She sighed loud enough that I could hear it. Seriously? But she followed me around the side of the house anyway. Rick was waiting near the fence. He introduced himself, showed his badge, and asked if they were aware their drainage was flowing directly into a neighboring property. She folded her arms. "It's just water. Rain does that." He didn't smile. "Rain is one thing. Altering your land so runoff flows off-site without a proper drainage system is a code violation. Your permit doesn't include any of the required grading modifications. You'll need to file an amended plan and correct this within 30 days. She looked stunned. "Are you serious right now? We passed inspection." "You passed structural," Rick said. "But drainage is a separate issue. You'll also be liable for any damage caused." That's when the husband came out. "What's going on?" he asked. Rick repeated everything. The husband just stood there, rubbing his jaw like he didn't believe it. Finally, he looked at me and said, "You really called the city over a little water?" I didn't answer. I just looked back at him until he turned away. The fix wasn't cheap. For them, by the following week, I saw trucks in their yard. Contractors dug a trench along the back fence. They laid down gravel and piping, a French drain system. I looked it up. It ran from the back corner all the way to the front yard, tying into the street storm line. They also had to regrade part of the lawn to slope toward the street. It looked like a mess. I watched from my kitchen window, drinking coffee, while they worked through the heat. I documented everything. Every step. Meanwhile, I had my own inspector come through. He confirmed the water intrusion caused damage to my drywall, some insulation, and my subfloor. I got estimates and filed a formal claim with their insurance company, backed by Rick's report. 3 weeks later, a check arrived. After that, everything shifted. I didn't throw it in their face. I didn't brag. I just kept to myself and fixed my basement. But word gets around. Springfield isn't huge, and this neighborhood? People talk. The guy down the street, Mike, asked me about it while we were both raking leaves. "Heard something happened with the Joneses' pool," he said casually. I just nodded. "I saw the trucks out there for a while," he added. "Didn't know it was city-ordered." I didn't say much. Just, yeah, it got messy. By the next month, people were treating the neighbors different. Little things. No more waving at their house. People stopped walking their dogs past their yard. A couple moms pulled their kids from the backyard fence when they were outside. It wasn't hostile, just quiet, distant. They knew. That part wasn't my fault. I didn't spread anything. But when your pool floods your neighbor's house and then you laugh about it, people remember. Their attitude changed, but it was too late one afternoon. Maybe a month after the drainage work was done, I was out front cleaning out my truck. The husband walked over, hands in his pockets, sunglasses pushed up on his head. He looked tired. He said, "Hey, look, I didn't mean to blow you off that morning." It caught me off guard. I didn't answer right away. I just kept pulling out floor mats. He added, "We didn't realize how bad it got. I thought it was just water." That word again. I finally looked at him. It was my basement. He nodded, looked down at his shoes. We had to pay out a lot. Insurance is fighting us on the premium now. They think we lied on the drainage form. I didn't feel bad. I said, "You laughed." He didn't argue. He just said, "Yeah, that was stupid." Then he walked back to his driveway. The weirdest part, I still don't fully trust my house. I replaced everything in the basement. New carpet, new baseboards, fresh paint. I even bought a second sump pump as backup, just in case. But now, when it rains, I don't sleep well. I keep going downstairs. I check the floor. I listen for the pump. I shine a flashlight around like some nervous homeowner in a horror movie. I hate that I do that. But I can't help it. It's not just about the water. It's what it took to be taken seriously. What it cost just to get someone to admit they screwed up. They still live there. The pool's still there. The drain system works, far as I can tell. But every time I see them dragging pool toys out of the garage, I feel that little flick in my gut. Like they think it's over. Like they just moved on. But for me, there's this thing people don't talk about when your home gets damaged. It's not just the cost or the hassle. It's that you stop trusting your own walls. Every time I hear a pipe knock or see a dark spot on the carpet, I freeze for a second. It's like a little alarm in my chest goes off. What now? What's leaking? What's broken? My house used to feel like the one place I could relax. Now it feels like something I have to patrol. And the worst part is that they still act like nothing really happened. I see them outside sometimes, setting up for another pool day, putting out the same plastic chairs and that ridiculous flamingo float. It's like they just hit reset and moved on. They nod when they see me now. Smile even. Like we're just neighbors again. But I don't wave back. I can't. One day, I found something that made my blood run cold. It was late September. I was going through old boxes in the garage, trying to clean out some space for winter. I opened one of the bins that had been stored in the basement before the flood. It was marked photos. Inside was a stack of albums, wedding, baby pictures, vacation trips, and a little velvet pouch. I'd forgotten it was in there. My wife gave me that pouch before we got married. Inside were some old keepsakes, a matchbook from our first date, a handwritten note I'd scribbled when she was in the hospital once. Stuff that meant something. It was soaked. The pouch had gotten wet during the flood and then dried stiff. The ink on the note was mostly gone. Just blurred lines now. The paper crumbled in my hand. I sat on the garage floor and stared at it for a long time. Not because of what it was, but because I didn't even realize I'd lost it until that moment. And that's when it really hit me. They took more than a basement. They took things I'll never get back. That's what still eats at me, not the repair bills. Not the ruined furniture. Not even the insurance headache. It's that they laughed while I was panicking. They celebrated while I was dragging drenched boxes up a flight of stairs at 4:30 in the morning. They kept the music going while I was on my knees ripping up carpet. And all I ever got from them was a late, mumbled, "Didn't mean to blow you off." Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't called the inspector. If I hadn't taken pictures, rented a level, dug through permits. If I'd just let it go, I'd still be the guy with a moldy basement and a neighbor who throws water down the hill every time he wants to party. And that's the part one can't let go of. That winter, we had a freeze-thaw stretch that lasted for weeks. Snow on Monday, melt on Thursday, more snow again by Sunday. I was back in the habit, checking the sump pump, inspecting the baseboards, testing the floor near the back wall, every couple days.
It was exhausting.
I hated that it became part of my routine. Then one night around 2 a.m., I heard something strange. Running water. I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs, heart pounding, ready to find another flood. It wasn't my house. I opened the back door and saw water gushing out of a white PVC pipe on the side of my neighbor's yard. Steam rising in the cold air. The new drain system. They hadn't winterized it right. The pipe cracked and was leaking runoff right along their walkway, freezing into a sheet of ice by the fence. I just stood there in the cold, watching it. Part of me thought about waking them up. Part of me didn't. I went back inside, wrote an email to the city, and went to bed. A new kind of quiet. They fixed it eventually. I never heard an apology or even a mention. But something changed after that winter. No more parties. No more pool music. They trimmed back their landscaping and stopped hosting anyone on weekends. I don't know if it was embarrassment, shame, or just getting older, but they pulled back. We live near each other, but we don't live with each other anymore. We pass in silence, or with short nods if eye contact is unavoidable. That's it. And yet, the whole situation still lives rent-free in my head. The sense of helplessness. The rage. The amount of effort it took to be believed. I did everything right. I stayed calm. I followed the rules. I didn't scream or threaten. And even after all that, I'm the one who still carries it. I've learned something about people from all this. Some never say sorry because they think if they don't say it, then it didn't happen. Like, silence erases consequences. They probably think we're fine now. That enough time has passed. That the check from their insurance and a new drainage pipe means we're even. But I can't forget what they showed me that morning. Not just indifference, but mockery. He laughed at me while my basement filled with water. She rolled her eyes when the inspector showed up, like I was being dramatic. And even now, years later, when the neighborhood gets together for barbecues or block cleanups, they still show up. They still smile at people. Some neighbors still talk to them, like nothing ever went down. I don't correct anyone. I don't tell the story unless someone asks. But when they do, I don't hold back. Because I remember exactly how it felt. And then one night, I couldn't sleep. It had rained earlier that day. Nothing heavy, just a spring shower. But around 1 a.m., I was wide awake again, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went downstairs, barefoot, just to check. The basement was fine.
Dry.
Still smelled like fresh paint and carpet glue. The backup sump light was green. Everything was okay. But I still stood there for a long time, just staring at the spot where the water came in that first time. And I realized something. Even though the problem was fixed, something in me never got repaired. Sometimes, when people ask why I don't go to neighborhood events anymore, I just say I've been busy. But the truth is, I don't want to stand next to someone who laughed while I was drowning in their mess. I don't want to pretend like trust comes back just because the ground dried. And maybe they've forgotten what they did. Or maybe they just never really saw it the way I did. But I think that's the part that stays with me the most, that I had to prove my own damage before anyone believed it was real.